You know what really grinds my gears? Entitled neighbors who think the world revolves around them. Well, today's story is about one of those neighbors and how I made sure she learned a lesson she'll never forget. Buckle up because this one's satisfying. So, let me set the scene. I'm a 62-year-old retired veteran. After 30 years of service, my wife and I bought our dream home in a gated community called Estates Community, one of those cookie-cutter subdivisions in Scottsdale, Arizona, where every house looks identical, painted in approved shades of beige. Now, I'm not a troublemaker. I mow my lawn every Saturday morning at exactly 8 a.m. I keep my hedges trimmed. My mailbox is always freshly painted. I'm basically the model homeowner. But here's the thing about me. I spent 3 decades in the military, and I don't respond well to petty authoritarianism, especially when it comes from someone who's never had any real authority in their life. Enter Deborah. Deborah was a 55-year-old real estate agent who'd lived in Estates Community for 15 years. She wasn't the HOA president. That was a quiet, retired accountant named Bob who barely attended meetings. But Deborah was on the board, and she ran that HOA like it was the Pentagon. The problem started on July 4th weekend, 2023. My wife bought a small garden gnome at a craft fair in Old Town Scottsdale. It was about 8 inches tall, holding an American flag. Cute, patriotic, totally harmless. She put it in our front flower bed next to the roses. 3 days later, I got a certified letter from the HOA. Violation notice. Unauthorized decorative item in front yard. Estates Community Homeowners Association covenants, codes, and restrictions. Section 7.3.2 prohibits yard ornaments without prior written approval. Fine, $50 per day until violation is corrected. Total due, $150. I looked at the signature. Deborah Mitchell, HOA board member. Now, I'm a reasonable guy. I figured it was a mistake. I called Deborah and politely explained that it was just a small patriotic decoration and asked if we could get it approved retroactively. Her response, "Rules are rules, Colonel. If I make an exception for you, everyone will want one. The fine stands. Remove the gnome or pay $50 per day." I removed the gnome, but I was annoyed. Here's what really bothered me. 3 houses down, the Martinez family had a huge fountain in their front yard. 2 streets over, someone had a flagpole that wasn't on the approved list. Another neighbor had planted unapproved desert willows, so I did what any engineer would do. I requested copies of all HOA violation notices from the past 2 years through the Arizona Public Records Law. Our HOA documents are technically public since we're incorporated. Guess what I found? In the past 24 months, Deborah had issued 47 violation notices. 47. The next most active board member had issued 3. But here's the kicker. 38 of those 47 violations were issued to just 7 households. And when I cross-referenced the addresses, I noticed something interesting. Every single one had voted against Deborah in the last HOA board election. I should have let it go. But I'm stubborn, and I don't like bullies. I sent a polite email to the full HOA board with receipts showing Deborah's pattern of selective enforcement. I suggested that maybe we needed clearer guidelines and more consistent application of rules. Deborah lost her mind. Within a week, I received 6 more violation notices. Number 1, mailbox post paint is faded. It wasn't. I'd painted it in May. Number 2, grass exceeds maximum height of 3 inches. I measured. It was 2.5 inches. Number 3, trash cans visible from street before 5 p.m. on collection day. I put them out at 4:45 p.m. She was clearly watching my house. Number 4, holiday decorations remained up past January 15th. It was January 12th, and it was a single wreath. Number 5, unapproved shrub variety in side yard. I had literally bought it from the HOA's approved plant list at a local nursery. Number 6. Vehicle parked in driveway overnight in violation of Section 12.4. This was my own car, in my own driveway. The rule said no RVs, boats, or commercial vehicles. I drive a sedan car. Each violation came with a $50 per day fine. The total? $10,000 in proposed fines over 3 weeks. My wife was in tears. She wanted to sell the house and move, but I'd been in worse situations than this. And I knew something Deborah didn't. I knew how to read fine print. I spent 2 weeks doing nothing but reading. I read every page of our HOAs, CC and Rs. 127 pages. I read Arizona's Planned Community Act, Arizona Revised Statutes, Title 33, Chapter 16. I read every HOA board meeting minute from the past 5 years. I read our HOA's bylaws and election procedures, and that's when I found the gold mine. According to our bylaws, any homeowner in good standing could run for the HOA board. Elections were held every November. Board members served 2-year terms. 3 board positions were up for election in 6 months. More importantly, I discovered that Arizona law requires HOA boards to follow specific procedures for issuing fines. They have to provide written notice, offer a hearing before the board, allow the homeowner to present evidence, and vote on the fine. Deborah had skipped steps 2 through 4 for every single one of my violations. Under Arizona law, those fines were unenforceable, but I didn't tell her that yet. Instead, I did something else. I ran for the HOA board. Not just me. I recruited 2 other homeowners who'd also been targeted by Deborah. One was a retired schoolteacher named Margaret. The other was a software engineer named David. We called ourselves the Common Sense Coalition. Our platform was simple: consistent, fair enforcement of rules, transparent board meetings, focus on community improvement, not petty violations, no more selective targeting. We went door to door, all 247 houses in a state's community. I printed flyers on my home printer. We created a simple online group for our neighborhood and posted our platform. Deborah, meanwhile, got arrogant. She assumed she'd win easily. She'd been on the board for 8 years. She sent out one letter to the neighborhood listing her accomplishments, which was basically just a list of all the fines she'd issued. Big mistake. Turns out a lot of people in our neighborhood were sick of her. They just didn't think they could do anything about it. Election day came, November 15th, 2023. In our HOA, voting is done by paper ballot at an annual meeting, or by proxy if you can't attend. Margaret, David, and I each got over 60% of the vote. We won all 3 open board positions. Deborah was furious. She stood up at the meeting and accused us of voter fraud and ballot stuffing. She demanded a recount. The HOA's attorney, who was present, calmly explained that the election was conducted properly and the results were valid. Deborah was still on the board for another year because her term wasn't up, but now she was in the minority. The other 2 remaining board members? Quiet Bob, who was actually thrilled to have people who'd take charge, and another neighbor who mostly stayed neutral. Our first official act as the new board majority. We voted to rescind all pending fines that hadn't followed proper procedure under Arizona law, including all $10,000 of my fines, $0 owed. But here's where it gets even better. Under our HOA bylaws, board members elect officers, including the president, at the first meeting after elections. Bob, the old president, was tired. He'd only stayed on because nobody else wanted the job. He immediately nominated me for president. The vote was 4-1. I became HOA president. Deborah was now answering to me. But I didn't gloat. I didn't retaliate. I didn't issue her bogus violation notices. Instead, I did something worse. I made her irrelevant. We restructured the violation process, created a fair 3-strike system, set up an online portal where homeowners could see all violations issued, transparency, established a violations committee so no single person could issue fines. We also updated the CC&Rs to remove about 30 outdated, ridiculous rules that nobody followed anyway. Within 3 months, violation notices dropped by 80%. Community satisfaction, based on an anonymous survey we sent out, went up to 89%. Deborah attended every board meeting for the next 6 months, arms crossed, saying nothing. Then, in May 2024, she put her house up for sale. She moved out of estates community in July. Here's the absolute best part of the story. After Deborah moved out, the new owners, a young couple with 2 kids, introduced themselves to the neighbors. They mentioned they'd gotten a great deal on the house because the previous owner needed to sell quickly. I asked how much they paid. They'd gotten it for $35,000 below market value. Why the rush to sell? Turns out, Deborah had racked up so many enemies in Estates community that she was miserable. She couldn't go to the grocery store without someone from the neighborhood giving her dirty looks. She couldn't attend community events without people avoiding her. She'd made her life in our neighborhood so unbearable through her own behavior that she took a $35,000 loss just to escape. Meanwhile, that little garden gnome my wife bought, it's still in our flower bed, right in front, 8 inches tall, holding an American flag, fully approved by the HOA board because I approved it myself. So what's the lesson here? Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone, it's making them obsolete. It's taking away their power by doing the job better than they ever did. Deborah wanted control. I gave her accountability instead. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of satisfying justice. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, drop your story in the comments. I read everyone. Remember, the best revenge is living well and winning elections.